But anyways, these are the new con man. I'm deeply unhappy about it. Google can fuck off. Not as much as Elon Musk can fuck off, but thumbs down. Thumbs down, Google cutting similar audience.
Welcome to Punchy by Rival, where we take the gloves off to share the hard-hitting realities of the challenger marketing world. Each week, we'll break down the buzz and cut through the BS, the top stories and trends to tell you what you really need to know and do differently to grow your brand and career.
I do not have a clever way to start this episode because I'm in Singapore and I was in the UK on Monday and I was in the US on Sunday. And so I don't even know what day it is, much less what time it is. And my brain, if it makes it to the end of this episode, y'all should be impressed. So don't expect anything witty from me. I'm just going to do the bare minimum hosting job today. Chris, how are you? Thanks for joining us.
I'm fine. That was one hell of an intro. I was like, Punchy, I get it. So
yes, bring the punches. We need to get some, like, remember when we had Derek on the show and he actually like brought out the belt? We should do that. We need like some type of like trophy that we give people when they win.
I have a glove signed by Sugar Ray Leonard, but it's in another room. So next time, next time you have me on.
All right, next time you can send us a photo. Jenna, what's going on in New York?
It's too warm here. I have to deal with the crushing millennial climate change anxiety of, oh God, is society going to end in 15 years? But also I have client deliverables. So it's good. It's good. Yeah.
Gotta prioritize those client deliverables. Dubose, you're looking very Jesus-like today with the hair down and like the bright light behind you, almost like a halo.
Why would you say something? Marketing. Why would you say something so ego?
I was going to say, if you already have a God complex, is that a step down, or I can't really tell. But and on the earlier point, I personally think that we should have plastic championship belts for everything. That way, at the end of the year, we could have like a unification fight for who won the Excel championship belt and who won the podcasting championship belt in a steel cage as our Christmas party.
No plastic.
Recyclable.
As long as it's recyclable.
Yeah, compostable championship belts.
Recycling is a myth perpetrated by the Coca-Cola Bottlers Association.
A compostable championship belt would last, what, like 10 minutes? It would just be residue.
You sweat, as soon as you sweat on it, it like just dissolves.
Go.
All right, the show is off track before it even started. So unlike us. Yeah. All right, let's get into things. So, Chris, we are very happy and humbled to have the great Chris Denson with us today. As a quick introduction, Chris is an award-winning innovation advocate, marketer, host, content creator, and recovering comedian. He's worked with companies like the Obama administration, Art Basel Miami, the American Film Institute's Digital Content Lab, and a bunch of other very big brands that everybody has heard of. Additionally, he serves as innovator in residence at Pipelines, a new platform designed to introduce talented Gen Z and young millennials of color to career opportunities in the creative tech and entertainment industries. We're super excited to have you on the show. So thanks again for joining us, Chris.
Well, thank you.
Of course. You already know what's going to happen. So we're going to go through. Everybody's got an article that they got to talk about. 1 minute for the person who chose the article to give their point of view. And then we have 3 minutes to discuss it as a group. I then award points at the end that have no basis in any meaning, but it gives me a little bit of a power trip because I don't actually get to choose an article in most of these episodes. And then the winner gets to rant or rave at the end. And sometimes we have a special guest show up to talk to us about interesting things that they're seeing in the agency world. So let's start with the news, shall we? Chris, the story from you, from Future Party, Roblox plans to grow up with their users. So Roblox and NYC's Parsons School of Design are collaborating on a digital fashion course to teach students how to create designs that straddle the real world and the metaverse. While Roblox was originally billed as a kid-first gaming platform, an update coming this year will help, quote, mature the platform for its growing user base. So according to The Verge, Roblox knows it needs to age up to keep up with the times, so it's introducing a handful of new features for those over the age of 13, which include immersive ads, brand portals, age ratings, expressive avatars. Chris, talk to us about why you chose this article and what your opinion is about it.
Well, it was the only one I could find. And no, look, I just thought it was smart. I just, it was it checked so many boxes. I'm a God of War fan, and I was thinking about there's a new one coming out in a few days. And if you look at how Kratos, the main character of the game, has aged, and now he has a son, now his son has grown up. It's just like, I've been playing that game since it first came up. But if it was the same God of War each time, and that character didn't mature as I've matured, like, so I think that idea of like keeping your audience intact, or keeping your audience, then you've got like the whole metaverse experience. I'm looking at this clock now, I need to shut up. But you're looking at this experience where it's in the metaverse, and we've been trying to figure out ways to make the metaverse more relevant, sticky, useful, and the fact that they're designing clothes and items that can live in the metaverse and in real life, and it's educational, and you've got built-in audiences from both of those organizations in partnership with one another. It was just pretty fascinating to me as a strategy. Did I do it?
But it seems like I get it in terms of something that they feel like they need to do. They need to age up. But there wasn't anything in the article, unless I missed it, of something like that where the main character ages up with the people that are playing it. It was about introducing new ads, and also, I guess, some like avatars that have slightly more expression. But the thing I was trying to understand is like, how do they think this is going to appeal to older gamers, or am I missing something?
I don't think it's older gamers. I think it's like, if you've been a Roblox fan and like you're maturing with the platform, it's the same way you would watch Harry Potter. Like if you were 7 when Harry Potter was 8, like when he's 17 and you're around the same age. So there's this, it continues its relevancy with its existing audience rather than like attract. And then you're going to get some new audience members, right? Just because of the Parsons School and those students and instructors, and like you'll get some exposure. What percentage stick around and just do Roblox just because, that's still TBD.
Yeah.
Also, I think that actually,
Jenna.
Well, as I say, I think that kind of the point a little bit of this was like, those like, they are ads, but the like, I guess this is my minute. I'm just going now. Hannah, you can throw the clock up. That like part of like the reason that they want these new immersive ads and the new like creator like kind of portals is that actually like the thing with Roblox is, and they talk about this as their monetization strategy, is that it's kind of like Minecraft a little bit, where people go and like build and construct like their own projects there, right? And that like actually on Roblox, there's a really easy way for them to monetize that. Like you can on like Minecraft too, like you can kind of monetize your server and do a couple other things. But Roblox, like this is their TikTok like influencer or like creator portal. Is like with Roblox, like you have the opportunity to go build like your world, like your experience, like and for some of these like, with the brand partnerships and the brand portals is to build and then monetize that. And so I think that the aging up with their creators like is again making that pathway for as those people become like they're not just kids and they're actually developing like legit like coding and kind of like building and development skills within this world, that's the future for them, which I think is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm going to go over time on this one, but I think that one of the things that's always been super interesting to me is millennials or like older like generations talk about how it's weird that Gen Z actually is not super good at using like personal computer like interfaces, that they're so used to like iPad like touchscreens or whatever that sometimes they don't have some of the basic skills that like millennials got taught in school. And I think that this is the area where Gen Z is just going to leapfrog every other generation about like the actual building of what is and what will become the metaverse, is like the technical skills required to build and like do these things in Roblox, I think.
I mean, so I'll hop in on that and say, I love anything that says the typing skills and basic computer skills I was taught as an older millennial in school being useful is amazing, because I haven't used a lot of those in years. But generally, I think there's an interesting thing here in that when I squint and take out the word metaverse and then just think about this as like digital creators on a platform that allows creativity, trying to create more assets that kind of create a rich and vibrant community, and putting it in gaming as a start and trying to drag gaming to creativity, I think it's a really, really exciting thing. I think it's funny because, I think the whole building of the metaverse thing, obviously, once we reach some kind of critical mass where platforms start to be used and developed, it's probably going to be half on platform, half in things that are a bit more boring, like 3D modeling software and kind of coding environments. But I think there's something interesting here about taking a platform and trying to stretch the use of that platform. I do think it's interesting because I think there's an elasticity to it. It just reminds me of when what was the big virtual world thing in the early 2000s, the one that got taken over by the furries.
Second Life?
Second Life?
Second Life, that was it. Yeah, like you got to be careful aging up too much because at a certain point you go from building virtual homes to having furry conventions. So, I mean, there's a risk there, but I think there's an elasticity to these things, and I think Roblox is on the right side of that.
Furry elasticity. That's what I'm taking away from this conversation. All right.
That's not an economic concept that any economist would recognize.
As soon as you said elasticity, I was thinking about the band around my underpants.
Are there any? What are the marketing implications to this, if any?
That Meta is so behind the gun that Roblox is eating Meta's lunch on what actually constitutes the real metaverse. Like,
if
what
virtual
were the stats in here about daily active users? 52 million daily active users. What was it for Meta?
I mean, now it's like 30. Now, and also to be fair, of the 52 million, half are under the age of 13. So functionally, it's not really like from a marketing perspective. I don't think that we should view this as a gold rush of young, impressionable minds for us to go advertise against. But it is. I was wondering
where you're going with that. If you can't advertise them, they don't legally count as people. So there's really only half the user base legally counts as a human being, I guess.
No.
But.
There's 2/5. Racy. I think about when I think of marketing, right? I just think of brand experience. How many experiences can you create that replicate your brand message, what you stand for, what you want people to do with your product and or service? And so this is becoming indicative of like possibility, So the fact that look, there was I think in that same article, it talked about all these CEOs that were poo-pooing the metaverse. And they quoted like 6 or 7 of them, and they were pretty, high level, but it's that sort of that cycle of like, hey, something's new coming along. Let's start to play in it, see what happens, and hope for the best while it matures as an industry.
I mean, I think that's such a powerful point where you go, I think, like, obviously, and I'm guilty of it, there's a lot of cynicism around the term the metaverse in the industry, but I think that's because people are looking for the Ready Player One replicated, completely polished experience. Whereas I think it's a shame with a lot of technologies that actually some of the nascent things that are being done right now on platforms like what Roblox is doing are incredibly exciting. And they are, activating a lot of the tenets of modern marketing, being a platform for users, creating value in new ways, allowing the kind of community to guide them where they want to go. And I think that's really, really powerful. So I think it's interesting that, you can simultaneously kind of go, oof, it's not really the metaverse yet, but then also go, wow, it's a really exciting and interesting thing that's being done.
I feel like this is slowly turning into a metaverse show. Did y'all talk about metaverse last week?
No. And we're not going to, the logical conclusion of this is we simulcast this on Second Life or something, and that's not happening. So no, there'll be no rival embassy on Roblox.
Maybe this is slowly becoming the Web3 podcast, marketing podcast that I wanted to start. You two let me.
You did it. Congratulations.
All along. All right, let's keep rolling. Story number 2 from Jenna.
You didn't do points. You didn't do points.
Oh, sorry. 10 points for everybody, plus 2 extra points for Chris. Yes. Story number 2. I don't have to justify myself.
All right, was that too much?
From Jenna and the classic marketing outlet that is the New York Magazine. Are we living under quote unquote techno-feudalism? I am way too jet lagged to try to unpack this story for everybody. So I'm going to let Jenna do it. But basically, the core concept of it is today's capitalists are not by and large reinvesting their profits to develop new capacities to expand output or increase labor productivity. Rather, an increasingly ludicrous share of growth comes from the form of surveillance platforms with tenuous relations to workers who make widgets for profit. So, Jen, I'm going to let you unpack this and talk to us about how this ties to marketing news.
I think the first thing that we should take away from this is that the Intelligencer needs a new brand look and feel. If you thought this was the New Yorker, so we should send that suggestion to the Intelligencer. That
New York didn't I say New York Magazine? It's part of
okay. You said New York Magazine, but it's not New York Magazine. It's the Intelligencer. Anyways,
is that not part of New York Magazine?
Is it? I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyways, all right, fair enough.
NewYorkMag.com/intelligence. Minus points.
I'll take that. I'll take that.
I feel like I'm witnessing something I shouldn't be seeing.
Yeah. Okay. So the relationship to marketing on this one, I think is a little bit, I more am hoping that this is a bit of commentary for people in the industry, I'm trying not to be too preachy. I also think that there's a version of this that Bo Burnham, the hilarious millennial content creator and comedian, was actually just featured in a roundtable, I think, like hosted by Meta, that was a much funnier version of this, about how all these companies are functionally coming to colonize every minute of your brain and attention. And that there needs to be some growing realization, that like the large tech platforms that we all spend money on are starting to do things that have serious and severe impacts to our daily lives as human beings. This article was really infuriating to me because I think that this author like really gets to that point. And again, he puts out this kind of like scenario about like what would happen if Amazon took over these municipal contracts, which is a very like real plausible scenario and what that means for us. But then he loses the thread by going, well, Facebook is not really a threat to us because they've lost 40% of their market capitalization like previously, ignoring the fact that Facebook facilitated a genocide in Burma and like demonstrably influenced elections in like major countries like the US and the UK or whatever else. But it's more one of those things, like I know I've talked about this like a little bit about like, Reed Blackman and like ethical AI and a couple things, but it's just kind of we as people who spend and control significant amounts of money going towards these types of apparatus should be aware of the second order effects of the things that we do. I think that was non-preachy and funny. We'll send the funny Bo Burnham one. The Bo Burnham one's really good. Yeah.
All right, we'll see if we can pull that and put it in the show notes. Chris, what do you think?
I'm intellectually overwhelmed. There is something to be said about the idea of threat, and have we learned our lessons in building these other tech platforms that have, shown some unintended consequences and some nefarious characters when they see what those unintended consequences can be. So how do we get ahead of that? Like that's been a conversation in AI for years, right? Like, oh, we know it has a tendency or the possibility of becoming nefarious. If you've ever seen Tay, everybody look up Tay. That was an experiment gone hilariously wrong, but terribly wrong. And so, like, who's the coalition that can get in front of these? Can an organization be put together? Like, bad example is the 4As. Right, the American Association of Advertising Agencies governs what you can and cannot do, or at least like gives you tools and resources to know what those things should be. So I'm curious as to how we get ahead of it, and if we can, or if it's too late.
I struggle with
last words on this one.
I yield.
I struggle with is the genie out of the bottle? That's my hardest question. I don't know. To your point, like, can we get ahead of it?
I think it's a series of genies in a series of bottles, right? Like, I think if this was a podcast being held in like the early 1900s, I imagine technofeudalism would be complaining about owners of newspapers carving up relationships with railroad barons. I think it's back to the idea that this isn't the plot of The Music Man. This isn't the first con artist that showed up to town. We are a town that has a new con artist showing up every 2 days, and we're constantly surprised when what they're selling us isn't actually what they promised. I mean, I think there is a challenge here that, especially with kind of social networks, I think the optimism we've had around technology and the ability of it to kind of improve lives has clearly been squandered. I think when we start talking about that being applied to AI, I think, Jenna, to your point, I think the genie was already out of the bottle well before we even realized we needed to go genie hunting. So I think there's a real challenge here on how you start to pull the emergency brake on this when, technically we're probably already off the road.
Genie hunting sounds like the meanest thing I've ever heard. Like this,
it's the third Aladdin movie. They ran out of plots at a certain point.
I think that there is the third Aladdin movie. Oh no, that's the Return of Jafar is the third one.
Yes.
And they are, yeah. No, I don't know. This is a little bit preachy. I actually don't really have like a point of this one, but again, like more to think about it. I think about this all the time, and like, where the heck should I be spending like our marketing budgets? Like, of course, we need to do some effectiveness stuff, but the reality is that we need some kind of world where like human interactions on the internet are not all explicitly reduced to manipulatable like data extraction moments. And like, if we want to draw this back to like marketing about like what is the value that we provide to people rather than treating people as an extractive data value. I don't know. I think that's it's a social and marketing
I
imperative.
think also like the marketing implications can also, one of the things I'm thinking about is like, how do we return to just really pulling on emotional heartstrings as marketers, right? Like I think at the end, whether it's he said, she said, or this data point said that data point, there's some universal truths that we all, need as humans, and that's to be acknowledged, heard, seen, and to feel. And how do you create experience that allow you to do that are non, as least technologically infused as possible. So, going to, like, I was at Money 2020 last week. Hey, Eric, saw you there on the show floor. But like the energy of just people being in the same space and conversing with one another, like we spent like 2 years looking at a screen, is a really long time to like become absorbed with what's on Twitter, what's on Facebook, what's on Netflix. Like and now that we're like looking people in the eye again, I think there is something to be said about like human existence, and like how can brands tap into that in more ways than a social media post or a metaverse experience.
All right, I'm gonna move us on. 10 points to you, Chris. Jenna, I feel like you recovered there. So I'm gonna give you 10 points as well. Dubose, I'm gonna give you 12 points. You definitely had the most entertaining and I think probably pretty informative answer. Moving on to story number 3. This one was great. I really enjoyed reading this one. Not that I didn't enjoy reading the other articles, but this is a prime piece of journalism. Welcome to hell, Elon. You break it, you buy it, from The Verge. So the opening statement of this article, Twitter is a disaster clown car company that is successful despite of itself, and there's no possible way to grow users and revenue without making a series of enormous compromises that will ultimately destroy your reputation, Elon, and possibly cause grievous damage to your other companies. And the article only gets better and more entertaining from there. So Dubose, why don't you unpack it for us? 1 minute on the clock.
So I would say this is an example of the dog finally catching the car, but I think it's much closer. There's an old Western movie about a high plains drifter that gets recruited by a town to kill a load of bandits that show up. And basically it reminded me of in this article because they rename the town Hell when the bandits show up. They run in to rob it for like the 4th time and basically trap them there and gunfight them. And I can't help sometimes when looking at this Twitter deal to think, did someone decide to do the same thing to a billionaire? Because this is really the idea that someone's walked into something. And now, as the article points out, there's a real untenable mix of where Elon Musk is sitting with Twitter. On one end, you've got a very, very core community that's super excited about the idea of everything he's talked about and this kind of cake for breakfast, no moderation, crypto libertarian kind of dream. And then on the other side, you've got the idea of advertisers and everyone else that quite likes the idea of having a decent experience where people don't verbally abuse you. And then I think with Twitter being stuck in the middle at the moment, it's an untenable mix. I think the article goes on to say that's not the only balance he's stuck between. There's also the idea of countries where Tesla needs to do business, and the idea of completely unregulated kind of social network free speech might not be the most kind of matching deal. So I think there's a real challenge here for Elon on how you do something where you actually create value for Twitter instead of it just tearing itself apart. And I think at a certain point, he's, as the article says, he's become the absolute ruler of something. And the problem with absolute rulers is a lot of the time it ends pretty violently for them. So I think at least in the commercial metaphor for
crossed. Fingers
it's
crossed.
a real challenge.
I don't know.
Do you want to expand on your position there?
Yeah.
Is that the whole minute? Just
fuck Elon Musk. His fingers crossed. Fuck Elon Musk. No. Yeah, I obviously agree with everything that this article said, and I am, again, just from a pure Schadenfreude perspective, again, really enjoying the wake up call that this complete narcissist Elon Musk has made the classic megalomaniac stumble into an unforced error. Absolutely. However, I will say, those things aside, like in the second paragraph where he goes like, all the problems facing Twitter are not engineering problems, they're political problems. I do not at all mean to undercut the seriousness again of the content moderation policies and all the challenges that are outlined here, which are genuine business, like strategic hurdles to Twitter becoming a thing. but they also have terrible engineering problems. Twitter ads, even before all of this, could not drive revenue with a fucking steering wheel. This is such a, like, yeah, they've got all these problems, but it was not like that, like a lot of their growth and revenue problems. Like, this was the first year that they were just barely going to turn like a profit because they had just started to figure out their niche like sales strategies towards the very limited number of advertisers that Twitter makes sense for. I don't know. Yes, all the shitty content moderation stuff, but they have other problems. I think that it is absolutely welcome to hell. But as an ad buyer, I was thumbs down on Twitter like way before this, I guess.
Yeah, I agree with you on the ad buying side of it. I think the brands that have done the best on Twitter are the ones that just participate in the culture, right? They participate in the culture of what Twitter is. It's like when I'm looking at what's trending for the day and I see watch this show at the top, I'm automatically not going to watch it, right? Like, because it feels like advertising. But if I engage with Wendy's and or the chicken wars or all these other things that like are the social glue of what Twitter is. And yes, that glue becomes undone when I think even the day Elon took over, they said the N-word jumped 500% in use on the platform. But there was also still, it's, I don't know, it's indicative of the world that we live in, right? Like, I think in some ways we need to peel the curtain back in order to see what we're all dealing with and not just try to like, you shut up, I disagree with you. Like, sometimes you got to look at the problem in the face before you solve it. And that's, I don't know. I'm also stuck in the middle like you, Jen. I was like, there are some benefits and implications and things that will grow there. I'm definitely not paying $20 for a blue check mark though.
That's honestly, sorry, you go ahead. You go ahead.
No, I mean, I was just going to say that the $20 thing down to the kind of $8 thing. Jenna sent me a meme earlier this week, and obviously every episode has to have a Simpsons reference. But I think if you saw the one, there's a Prohibition Simpsons episode where the FBI agent goes to threaten to kind of interrogate someone, and he's like, please, please, please tell me. And he goes, no. And he goes, I'll be your friend. And I think that's the negotiating stance of the price point for kind of verified Twitter at the moment. I mean, the other thing to it is, just to round it off on a Simpsons reference, this is, you would assume this is the narcissism of a billionaire, assuming that kind of wealth kind of creates some kind of techno-solipsism. But I think this is much closer to the episode where Homer got to design a car. At a certain point, generally the super users of something are probably the least apt people to design a minimum viable product. If you allowed me to design the Taco Bell menu, it would be glorious, but also commercially unviable. And I think that's kind of what we're finding with Twitter at the moment. Sorry, go ahead, Jenna.
I was gonna say, so now for the blue check mark, if you click on it, it plays La Cucaracha as that's a deep cut Simpsons reference for that car. No, yeah, just the idea that like you would expect your power users, like the people that create the content that actually drive, like verified users, I don't know what the percentage is, but I'm sure that those are the majority of the people, like the Stephen Kings and whoever else, the AOCs of the world, that are actually making the content that people want to like go on Twitter. Talk about shooting yourself in the foot, like on the like, oh yeah, we're gonna drive away the only significant draw that our platform has, which is that people who are involved in the culture like create content here. I don't know. The whole thing is just a mess. Good. Fuck Elon Musk. I hope he's miserable.
On that note, like the one thing I will say is like the thing that bothered me the most probably was that I think it was this time last year where the UN put together a proposal for climate change, which we were talking about earlier, for $6 billion, and he was off the request of Elon Musk. And then, all of a sudden it's like, no, like, I think he completely ignored it. Like there was nothing ever even said about it. And then there's 44 billion, I can't do math, but that's a lot more times money than what we could have done to fix the real
I
world.
remember that. Yeah, I remember that, Chris. Yeah, when he was like, if somebody can credibly show me how I could solve, I think it was world hunger, that I could solve world hunger. And like the UN was like, we would love to talk to you. If you have $6 billion, we have an amazing plan that would functionally solve world hunger. And he just kind of went, I don't know that it's credible. And then that was it. That was the end of the conversation. Like so much more credible, the UN's plans to solve world hunger than whatever Elon's stupid idea about making engineers sleep in the office all weekend to build a better checkmark system. What a fucking tool. I'll shut up. Whatever.
All right. I have to say, I've gone back and forth here with the points for the final round, and it is very close. But I have to give it to Jenna because I think you really brought the passion and a lot of the swearing, which always gets extra points with me on this last article. So Jenna, you've got a minute for your rant or rave.
Oh shit. All right. I gotta do a rant. I'm gonna trash another like tech platform. Google is killing similar audiences. Thumbs down to Google. Talk about again another like tech platform like not understanding like its basic value proposition, making a stupid move that is driven by some short-sighted, ridiculous commercial obligations. Google early next year, like I said, will be removing the ability to construct and serve your ads against similar targeted audiences. This goes along in the wake of they've removed keyword and specific channel and creator targeting within YouTube. They keep pushing everybody towards these performance max campaigns. And I know that this is just because they want to push advertisers towards black box algorithmic solutions where you don't get to see how they spend your ad dollars. And they just say, as long as you hit your ROAS target, why do you care? And this is the new con man that's coming to town. I haven't seen The Music Man really recently. I guess I should really rewatch it, Dubos, so I can come up with these analogies. But anyways, these are the new con man. I'm deeply unhappy about it. Google can fuck off. Not as much as Elon Musk can fuck off, but thumbs down. Thumbs down, Google cutting similar audiences.
For the end of the year, I'm making a chart of all the tech platforms that will still speak to us after a year of Punchy. So like friends, enemies, question marks, like I think we need one for next year. We got to have some friends here somewhere.
We might have to actually start our own. That is
they're used to
mic drop.
Do we have money? They'll talk to us.
Before we go, we actually have another special guest who's joining us today, who may or may not know that they're joining us, and it is Kubos Dole, who is our reporter on the agency world over in New York. And so, Chris, you know, if you don't know about this segment, so we have a special guest who shows up, who is today, it's going to be Kubos Dole. And he's going to give us a little report, and he has not read the words that he's about to read off. And he gets 1,000,000 points if he's able to read through them without laughing. So, Kubos, what do you have to tell us about a new agency that you found in New York?
Well, so for anyone listening who hasn't gone to deep cuts to Fawn SNL episodes, it's well worth doing just to understand the context of this. Let me pull it up, and I'll chat about New York's hottest agency, which is called Don't Tell Me What to Do. It has everything. A high-bridge work environment. Everyone only works from the Manhattan Bridge underpass on Fridays. Programmatic media buying based on negative one-party data. That's data you own that doesn't even exist yet. It's a very Minority Report. Toucan Tigers. The award's given to the furriest brand planner every year. That's something I'm going to go for next year. A network of freelance virtual mice that make tiny hats and mittens for your VFriends characters when they get cold in the metaverse. That's relevant. Sensible sommelier. Proprietary media planning algorithms that can beat any brand planner in a game of checkers and optimize your media placements for the lowest possible cost per double jump. If that doesn't win at Media Week, I don't know what does. I'm very excited about this agency, and most of that sounded incredibly sensible. I would work there.
Who wouldn't?
Well done. 1,000,000 points. I can't believe you kept a straight face. Well done, Kubos.
I thought it was
the least absurd thing I've read all day. So we could sneak that into campaign.
It's very Mad Lib. It was, yeah.
I think a can tiger would be good. Is it like is it an award you get for like box tops like you used to get at like grade school where you send in 10 Frosties and you get an advertising award?
I can see that.
We do something like that. All right, Chris, thanks for joining with us.
Thank you for having me join you.
I'll see you around conferences in Las Vegas, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, take care.
See you guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
See ya.
Punchy is a production of Rival. We are a growth consultancy that builds challenger brands, strategies, and capabilities to disrupt categories. If you want to learn more about us, check out wearerival.com. If you want to connect with Jenna, Dubose, or myself, email us at media@wearerival.com or find us on LinkedIn. If you enjoyed today's show, please subscribe, share with anyone you think might enjoy it, and leave us a review. Thanks so much for listening, and see you next week.